Welcome to Mastering Agility. If you want to listen to authentic conversations with the most inspiring guests, find like-minded people in the Mastering Agility Discord community, or both online and face-to-face events, this is the platform for you. Grab a drink, sit back, and join professional Scrum trainers Sander Dorr, Jim Sammons, and their guests in an all-new episode.
How often do you hear organizations still talk about we have to be resilient, we got to stop being reactive rather than proactive, be resilient, be able to cope with change. We need to know why we're really doing this. It feels to me like we're falling back a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, but I do remember in 2020 hearing the word resilient and other ideas that mean the same thing a lot, and I don't hear them as much. I think most business people, if you want to play business jargon bingo, will say things like resilient and proactive versus reactive a lot. And it's always interesting to say, well, what does that mean to you? Or can you give me an example of something that you've moved from being reactive to proactive about? And, you know, sometimes you get a great answer. A lot of times you don't. But I do think you're right that we might have as an industry or as a world, maybe fallen into some sort of comfortable position again. Like, I remember in the US in the late 90s, I was, there was a war going on and you saw patriotism in a lot of places, and you saw yellow ribbons tied around trees, and turn on the radio and it's just constant patriotism all over. And then there was another long stretch where that didn't happen. And then something happens bigger than all of us that maybe makes something important again. So I think it's normal, but I think it's about doing the thing and showing the discipline when maybe it's not so obvious, whether that's being resilient or patriotic or a good person or a good son or a good friend or whatever that could be. But if you're only a good friend when your buddy is upset or when your friend is ecstatic, that's probably not what they need. That's probably not as good as being consistently a supportive friend.
No, but we as people in general, we tend to avoid tricky things quite a bit. Like, things are too hard for us, then let's not do it. And I feel organizations do that to an even more extreme level, right? Let's just avoid it because it's uncomfortable. So then how do you deal with that? And I think Mike Tyson had a really nice comment on it. I'm just looking at it right now, trying to find it because I can't remember it by heart, but it was a really good one. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing like you love it.
I like that.
Me too. And it sticks with me because I think that's what organizations should do a little bit more as well. And whether that's about just having their retrospectives on a sustainable basis or a continuous basis, whether that's talking to your customer. I was teaching at an organization 2 weeks ago, and I asked product owners, like, how often do you talk to your users or your customers? He said, or like the whole group said, never. I said, why not? We've got bigger fish to fry. Your customers, your users are the biggest fish. There is no bigger fish than that. Yeah, but that's not how this organization works. Then start changing that. Yeah, but it's really hard to do. Just start.
Right. Yeah, and there's a technique out there. I'll just let the audience Google it. It's called the Johari window. And basically it's a way of finding your own blind spots. And one of the ways to do it is to ask other people what they see in you. And you kind of do a little self-rating in how you see yourself. And there's 4 domains in this concept of the Johari window. And there's like what I could see and you can't see. So what do I know about myself or feel about myself that I keep private, that I don't show the outside world? And then there's the opposite of that is what do the outsiders see that I'm not aware of? So what's in my blind spot, or what am I putting out there? What perception do other people have of me? And then the other two are one of the other two is the unknown unknowns, right? It's kind of that blind to self, blind to others. And you can't spend a lot of time that because you just don't know. Like, I don't know it and others don't see it. So let's not worry about it. But then there's, the value in this of kind of sorting how you're perceived and what your skills and capabilities and personality is really about balancing how you see yourself with how others see you. And that can normally highlight blind spots and also maybe areas of strength that you weren't aware of and areas of weakness you're not aware of. So one of the things this time of year, people get reflective. So maybe ask your teams, hey, what am I good at? What am I not good at? What do you think would be great if I could get better at next year? And that might lead to a really good conversation.
What's something that you're really good at and something that you want to improve next year?
What is something I'm really good at?
Yeah, you set yourself up for this question.
Yeah, damn you. Okay. What is something I'm really good at? I think one of the things I'm really good at is helping people bring quantitative measures to balance qualitative measures and to ask them probing questions to figure out what's important to them and then help them make sense of that. So we could call that sense making. We could make that visualization. We could call that EBM, kind of all the things in that domain, moving from I think to I know, or it feels like to I can prove it, or I can quantify it. Something that I am not great at, that I am actively working on developing, is probably more professional coaching. And specifically inside of professional coaching is really distancing myself from outcomes and focus on creating the environment and the structure and unlocking the intrinsic abilities of people. Like, it's not that I can't do it. It's just not super comfortable. And it's not the most comfortable way for me to participate or show up in a conversation.
What makes you uncomfortable with it?
I see problems everywhere. It's kind of like Bruce Willis. I see dead people. I see problems everywhere, and I want to help solve them. Mm-hmm. And yes, I know that you can help solve while coaching, but it's more about refraining from that and not letting it bother me if there's still a problem 6 months from now. Like, I think one thing that I've done very well over the last couple of years with the help of my coach, Alex, is to not let it ruin my day, week, month, year when someone doesn't take my advice or solve their own problem, or when I see someone struggling with something that I know is bothering them that they probably could solve because they're smart and capable. So I am getting better at that. But yeah, it's still a struggle. How about you? I mean, I know that you have no weaknesses, but what is something that you would only give yourself an A- about that you would like to move up to an A+?
You know you're my weakness, Jim. No, I think what I'm horrible at is delegating stuff. So I try to be omnipresent with, well, basically anything, because that means omnipresent. But when it comes to the whole platform that we're creating, I try to do everything by myself and continuously. Too much, and this is by no means is this any finger pointing towards you or anyone else. It's just something that I try to do for whatever reason, whether that's the new Medium publication page, maintaining the website, creating the Discord, editing the podcast, releasing, scheduling the podcast, getting guests on board, figuring out new studio meetups, doing other things, public speaking, the whole shebang, creating the merchandise, everything. I try to do everything myself, and I know that at a certain point, I'm going to outpace myself. So I got to watch myself that I love doing what I do, but I got to watch myself that I don't burn out again.
Yeah. Well, and I know you and I have talked about that a lot on here and just one-on-one is, do you feel that you are stressing yourself out and diluting the impact or quality of any one thing because you are trying to do so much? Is that something you think about?
Yeah.
Like, would your book be done if you weren't doing this podcast and doing all those other things? And if you just focused on that for 2 months, as an example?
Maybe, because I'm not doing the book by myself, right? I'm doing that with Ryan Brook, and we also made an agreement where finding a publisher first. Like we were 70 pages in, 90 pages, something like that. We're now trying to find a publisher or figure out whether we're going to go for a publisher itself. Like we had a conversation with Pearson the other day, which so far went really well. But we haven't signed anything yet. And as long as we're there or not there, depending on how you look at it, we're figuring out whether we're going to do that or going to self-publish. I mean, you don't want to do or release a book, write a book if you're in it for the money. Books itself, especially books in Agile these days, they are not really a pot of gold, to say the least. It's more because we want to do it, because we like to do it, because we enjoy writing the book with a little sarcastic undertone, with a crap ton of Easter eggs in there. And it's something that we want to give back to the community that might be useful to others to learn from our experience. And then we'll move on to the next. But maybe, I don't know, coming back to your question, maybe we would be done, maybe not. We'll see. It's I think it lacks a little bit of a burning platform as well, like because there's no real deadline, and Ryan's super busy as well. I mean, he's trying to set up the business in Japan. He has his own consultancy. He's working with a lot of trainers as well. He's teaching himself, or he's doing his own website. He's doing all the things as well. So, and he has small kids like me, young kids. So I'm not sure. There's no real burning platform at this point to get it done as soon as possible. And I think that's one of the things that just lacks. That's not pushing me to really get it in.
You know what I smell then? Road trip. We got to go to Japan.
That's
what I smell.
That's a pretty far road trip, dude.
Well, hey, those are the best kinds, like Jack Kerouac style. Let's go intercontinental.
I'm down. You could send me anywhere.
And you've been to my house. You know I'm as guilty as this, or more guilty of this than many. Like there are so many projects going on, and you know I do think I dilute the quality and satisfaction I put into any one thing by trying to do everything. But it also keeps me interested, because that's why I like what we do, is we don't do the same thing every day. There was a year, actually a little more than a year, where I taught or trained or did something around teaching or training or educating every day. And it was exhausting. And when you were here this summer, I remember telling you, you're going to teach more in the next month than I have taught all year. But this year and next year, it looks like my pendulum has swung heavily into the consulting thing. And the roundabout place I'm going here is one of the other things that I think I have gotten a lot better at. So I'm going to call this a victory, is not needing to make a connection with every single person, not needing to convert every student, not needing everybody to get it for me to feel like I'm good at what I do. The counter of that, and that was stressing me out for a long time. And the counter to that, something else that I think I need to really work on, is what I'll just call professional emotional regulation. So it's a coaching thing of being able to not let your frustration show, or not let your excitement show, or not let this, into kind of being that calming influence, that emotionally regulated person, whether it's working with a team during conflict, or when things are going really well, when things are going, in crisis mode. And I'm watching the TV show Billions. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a number of it's fictional, of course, but there's a number of people in there. And one of the things that I look at a lot, and there's a professional coach in there, is the amount of restraint, discipline, and emotional regulation I see. And, I'm pretty good at it professionally, 8 to 5. But a couple weeks ago, a client picked up on the fact that I was frustrated, and they were right. And I was, and it's not like I said anything or did anything overt. It's just, they're like, I could read that you were frustrated. We had a good talk about it, and they said, it's totally cool, man. Like, you should have been frustrated. But I see it as an area of opportunity for me to regulate that even better, because if he picked up on it, he might have been distracted from whatever the task at hand was. Is that something? I feel like that's a strength of yours. What do you think about yourself in that aspect?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think this is where the imposter syndrome kicks in as well. Like, I tend to think sometimes I've got phases, right? Like anyone does. And then I'm proud of myself for doing something or reaching a certain number or the average rating that I get from students, and like, all right, but here's Jim doing this awesome thing, and then there's Ryan doing Japan, and then there's Dave doing this other cool stuff, and so I'm not sure. I think one of my biggest strengths currently, what I see, is bringing people together, connecting them, getting in touch with the right people, and helping them improve their lives, and that's something that I get a lot of joy out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yannick put in the chat, one of his strengths is being good at pragmatic solutions, and that's excellent. I think people that do what we do and that are helping others, being pragmatic is an amazing skill to develop, and being able to connect big problems, big ideas, theories, and principles to actionable things is good. And he says his weakness is maybe the spiritual side of coaching, which I gotta be honest. I have I'm not a big kumbaya, like drum circle, like I Chi type of stuff. So maybe that's a weakness of mine too, the whole spiritual side of coaching. But again, like I've said many times on here, coaching is not my default stance. It's not the most comfortable place for me. I consider myself more of a catalyst or a consultant than I do a professional coach. And that is purely because I respect people who are amazing professional coaches enough to know it's not my superpower right now.
Which is fine. I mean, you don't, and maybe that's tying back to one of my omnipresent thing. You don't have to be good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you enjoy what you're doing and you're effective and you reach what you're supposed to reach, and you help your customers and clients reach what they want to do, and you teach awesome kick-ass classes and you have a happy life, then why not? You don't have to be good at everything. And I think both of us sometimes forget that, right?
Yeah. So I have a question for you. What is something you want to bury with 2023 professionally? Like, what is an idea, a concept, a practice, a technique that you are just so sick and tired of hearing about, or you just don't believe in it, or whatever, that you just want to put a proverbial stake in its heart and never think about it again?
Oh, there are two things. One personal thing, and that's our talk 10s. There's always a next sprint. We've been doing that at many conferences for the last year and a half, and I'm done with it. For some odd reason, every time we submit like 5 or 6 different proposals or submissions to conferences, they always pick the same one together with either a topic on burnout or something else, but there's always a next sprint. So we're going to bury that. We have buried it. The last time we did was in Montreal, and now we're killing it. Don't be afraid to kill your darlings. It's a good thing to do. Wipe your product backlog clean. So we created new ones, buried that. And the other one is something that I would like to see change in the Agile community. And that's something that apparently a lot of people have been suffering from, is the amount of hate and ad hominem attacks on LinkedIn, social media, whatever platform that you get, but there seems to be increasing tension and unsubstantiated arguments, not feedback, right? Just bitching and moaning on LinkedIn or whatever platform that you're using. Giving feedback is fine. It's good. That's how we progress. But do it with proper arguments and with substance. Saying your work sucks or I disagree with this, and then nothing.
Yeah.
I had a student the other day that a couple of weeks ago that filled in an evaluation form, and it just clicked like a negative score when it comes to my class. The rest of the class was good. Students were happy except one person, and that's fine, right? to a certain degree. If there's no substance to it, or when I've asked you in class or just the class in general, like, is there anything that I can improve, that I can do better? Are you getting from this class what you're hoping? And I get straight A's, and then, everything's fine. And specifically mentioning that give me feedback right now, because if I see it on the evaluation form, I cannot change it. Right? Like right now, I have time to work on it. Be as I said, Dutchly blunt. Just be very direct about it. Do it. And then when I get an evaluation form back without any substance, without any arguments, just from one specific person, just low scores, like, I can't do shit with this. It doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's unconstructive. I still don't know anything right now, and I'm just in the blue. I don't get it. It's super annoying.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would like to see buried. And I don't have the illusion that everyone's always going to like me. And I buried that concept a long time ago. Like, especially early 20s, I always wanted everyone to like me, and I buried the concept quite a while ago. So I'm not under the impression that I'm for everyone, that I'm everyone's type, and that's fine. I'm all good with that.
Mastering Agility only works with organizations aligned with our values, and that's exactly why we are excited to work with our sponsor. Scrum Match is the free platform for professionals run by professionals. On Scrum Match, true Scrum Masters get hired by companies serious about the popular framework. The awesome people behind this platform have decades of experience, among them a professional Scrum trainer for Scrum.org. They have interviewed, trained, and coached hundreds of like-minded people, and they use this exact experience to make you stand out from the crowd and help you get in touch with companies looking for true Scrum Masters. So go to scrummatch.com and sprint to your dream job.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this on the past, but I still do. I joke with people that I'm kind of like horseradish or mustard. I'm not ketchup. Ketchup is almost universally loved. But I like horseradish. You either love it or hate it. I'm not for everybody. But the people who love me are extremely passionate. Or, mustard. Like, in a world of ketchup, I'm mustard. Still popular. Like, still a thing. People like it, but definitely not for everybody. And the people who don't like it a lot. So I'm going to answer my own question, because I asked it because I was thinking about this idea today. It's the end of the year. I'm going to try and shed some emotional baggage when it comes to, just what we do. Two things, since you gave two. One, to kind of go along with yours, is I've seen an increasing trend of people on social media, but especially LinkedIn, which I hold to a higher standard than Facebook and TikTok and all that crap, is someone will put a straw man argument out there. They'll just make some crazy hyperbolic claim to feed the algorithm, and then somebody or a number of people will say, well, can you back that up? Or this is just your opinion and you're purporting it to be fact, or what's your, they'll start to challenge respectfully. And the person responds with a screenshot of their engagement statistics. Like, ooh, I have 3,000 impressions, or I have 4,000 clicks, or 50,000 followers. Who gives a shit? Like, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that, the algorithms are picking your thing up. But it also gives an insight into their psyche that they're validated by those vanity metrics. And I am not telling anybody else what to do, but I am going to be going through the week between Christmas and New Year's and culling those people from my feed, because it just is a tiny little ding in my armor every day. And sometimes it happens on a day at a time when I don't need it. I don't need the negativity. I'm not trying to create an echo chamber. But I'm really just going to be taking the scalpel out with people that I feel are only putting divisiveness out there and not being pragmatically helpful to other people. Easier one? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to react to that?
No, there's just one general life advice. Don't be a dick. That's it. It's not that hard.
That is very sound advice. It's very Dutch advice. And I don't know where I was the first time somebody made it sound like, well, I'm sorry, I'm blunt, I'm Dutch. And I'm like, but that doesn't mean you can be an asshole.
No.
Like,
It's bullshit.
And now that I'm working with a whole bunch of people from your part of the world, I don't find that to be a theme at all. Like, I do think many people from that part of the world can be a little more candid, maybe radically candid, maybe a little more blunt, maybe a little more brutal or hurtful in some ways, but no more. Go to New York. You want to see blunt? Go to New York. Go to Boston. Go to most of Chicago, right?
I love Boston.
But anyway, so the other simple answer to the thing that I'm tired of seeing and hearing about is shuhari. That might trigger some people. Maybe some people are defensive of that, but I just find the idea to be misused, too simplistic, doesn't account for a million other variables, and I think it waters things down to making it seem like there's 3 stages to something. And I can't tell you how many teams I've seen. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're a re team." I'm like, says who? Like, on what model? By what definition? By, tell me how you come to that.
Yeah.
And it's because, well, it's the top. I just don't like that model.
No, Rihanna is a superstar as well, and just because she has Rih in her name doesn't make her perfect either.
I like that. I've never heard that. Did you make that up?
I just pulled it out of my ass, and I'm not sure it makes sense yet.
Holy shit. There you go. I like it. I'm going to remember that.
No, I always compare this to Karate Kid, right? Daniel LaRusso, wax on, wax off, which he didn't want to do. Mr. Miyagi telling him to do so because it were the rules. I think that's a perfect analogy to it. Like, apply. Fucking apply. Then learn from it. Just do it by the book. Apply. Build up muscle memory. And then evolve to something that fits you. But it's not
but what Mr. Miyagi did, he did a number of great things for Daniel, but was kind of a little manipulative. He was building strength and skills so that they'd be there when they were needed. And, I'm not saying I would do it any different, dealing with a kid, and it is a movie and all that, but I do use this same idea as you. So what do you think? Like, if we're building those skills inside of people and we're facilitating events, if we're reflecting problems, if we're being a good coach, consultant, advisor, mentor, should we be completely transparent all the time about why we're doing those things? Or do you think being a little Mr. Miyagi-like is okay?
I would say being a little Mr. Miyagi is perfectly fine. Not everyone always needs to know everything about the how and the what and why, because they'll tend to meddle with your methods or try to prove you're wrong or whatever. Sometimes it's just bear with me, do it, and then see the magic.
Yep. Yeah, the only reflection I would give to anybody out there who's thinking about this is be very careful not to help people selfishly. Because when I was in a big organization with, well over 150 coaches, I would ask somebody that I'm like, tell me about how you're spending your weeks and your months. And they're like, oh, well, I've been really talking to my team about value stream mapping. I said, okay, that's cool. What led you to bring that technique to the team? Well, I need to learn it. No, okay. You want to learn it, but how is it helping the people that you're there to help? Oh, well, it's going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to be able to do this, and it's going to help me in my career. I'm like, no, you're misunderstanding. How is the thing you're asking people to spend, hours and hours doing helping them? And it wasn't. And that was just one example. I heard whole bunches of things about, like, I'm getting good at this technique, or I'm teaching relative estimation, or I'm looking at this and looking at that. And a lot of times people had a great answer about why they found that technique or practice to help a team. But many times, or at least some of the time, it was a purely selfish endeavor.
Listen, teaching something doesn't make you better at it just for the hell of it. And I'll give you an example. Again, I'm going to refer to our previous episode with Dave Snowden, where he said there was this, one of the Agile public names, who said, I was bad at this, so we started teaching it to become good at it. I, especially in the early days of my career, I teach about wherever it's needed, whenever it's useful. I teach about story points and these kind of things if it helps people estimate or grasp the concept of estimation. And I was at this organization teaching that these people built Star Wars level technology machines, right? They have the most intelligent people in the world. An average team holds more PhDs than an average company, right? So I was teaching this class about Scrum and then estimation, the Fibonacci sequence, and I was explaining them how and what and why. And of course, there was someone in my class who had his postdoctorate about the Fibonacci sequence, and he was just poking holes in all of my logic. Like, all right, let's not do this. Just bear with me. Just listen to the point. I know what he was saying, right? I know the logic's flawed when it comes to purely picture perfect Fibonacci sequence. Sure, I get that. That's why I say specifically it's adjusted, but this is where it comes from. And he just kept going, poking holes in my logic, and why, therefore, the method of using story points was wrong. No, not at all. But coming back to your point, like, is it good at some points, or sometimes is it good to be Mr. Miyagi? Yeah, 100%. Because it's not going to be about pragmatism anymore. It's just going to be about poking holes in your logic just to prove you wrong and the other person right.
Yeah. That is something we should talk about on another episode, because I've had similar experiences. A few of them are coming to mind about people that people know too much about certain things, and all models break down. All models are wrong. Some models are useful, right? All analogies break down under inspection. Whatever you want to say about it. But it doesn't mean they're not helpful. It doesn't mean they're not useful. It's, there's certain things I probably know too much about it, and I try really hard not to be the old Cliff Clavin of, well, actually, that's not correct. Like, oh God, I have a friend, and every time he says, well, actually, if I took a shot, I'd get drunk every time I hung out with him. And it's just exhausting. Unless you want to do that.
No, sure, exactly. But it's just that, right? It's super annoying. And we try to teach people complementary practices. You don't have to use it, but if it's useful, just know it's there and know how it works, and then apply wherever apply wherever you want to.
Right. Do you consider yourself a teacher or an educator?
Sure, about the Scrum framework, yeah. Not about all the complementary practices, but some of them.
So what do you consider yourself about those? Something like relative estimation or liberating structures. What would you identify as?
Oh, that's a great question. Identifying is one of those very polarizing words these days, right?
Mm-hmm. How would you describe yourself? There, let's do that.
Novel. Like, I know how it works in the context of Scrum and where it's useful for. I don't know where it comes from specifically. Like, I don't know the full origin of all these complementary practices. I know enough to tell you about how I applied it with my teams that I worked for, and what were the results, and what I would not do, and that kind of stuff. But the pure theoretical concept is the same with the daily Scrum versus the daily stand-up. I always mention, like, this daily stand-up comes from extreme programming, and daily Scrum doesn't say anything about whether you should do it standing up, laying down, or hanging from the ceiling like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. I don't care. But know that it comes from extreme programming, and I know squat about extreme programming.
Well, you might know more than you think, because it's it's woven through the fabric of a lot of other things. But yeah, I get your point.
What about you?
Somebody told me recently that they were like, well, why do you say it's wrong? Like, I can call it whatever I want. I'm like, well, you're calling it the daily Scrum, so you're being specific about what it is. If you just want to talk about, we're going to get together, and you could sit, stand, it could be an hour, it could be 10 minutes. Fine, let's just call it a daily huddle. Let's just call it a whatever. Just call it something else. Who cares? If it's still useful, if it's good, that's fine. Do it. But if you can't rename a pineapple just because you want to, that's the thing. And I try and be very pragmatic when it comes to where I'm specific and where I'm not. I'm not the word police. I try very, very hard not to be pedantic about things. but more often than not, there's a misunderstanding or a misconception underneath a lot of those things.
I do love myself a good pineapple, especially on pizza.
Oh my God, you and your kind. Pineapple has no place on pizza. There, I said it.
Yes, it does.
Not in my house.
I'm pretty sure I cannot.
How about beans
come
and
to
chili?
Italy ever again.
Should there be beans and chili? That's been
Yes.
the latest discussion in my house.
Yes.
Yes? Good.
Yes.
Me too. I agree. So there we go, audience. If you want to tell us that you're listening after you give us that amazing 5-star review, cast your vote. LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Beans and chili, yes or no?
The answer is yes. There's only one acceptable answer to this equation. One thing that we can all disagree with, and then we're going to wrap it up because now we're just going to go into another rabbit hole. Kiwi on pizza. I've seen it the other day, and I just drilled a couple holes in my phone. I don't ever want to see that ever again.
Yeah. I've been in places where there's like fruit pizza or dessert pizza that have a kiwi on it, but I've never seen it like actually on like a savory pizza with meat and cheese and stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Wow.
I did, and it kind of felt the need to spike my eyes.
Oh yeah. Well, one quick other trivia thing. Is there a food that you are looking forward to this holiday season? Like that you just can't wait to get to that family get together and load your plate up with something?
Oh yeah, my dad's making a very specific plate. It's called rusty, like potato pancakes. Sort of a potato pancake, I guess. Like he scaves, he creates the soft boiled potatoes, and then he bakes them into a nice thick pancake. And he gets a sirloin. Cuts that up really thin, gets some pepper sauce on it, smears it all over this pancake. It's so good.
Are you going to wash it down with one of your Red Bulls?
No, by that, no, I only drink Red Bull in the morning, mostly. Like, that's my coffee, right? It's 9 o'clock, Red Bull time. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then by the time that I'm eating that, I'm probably going to be shit-faced on beer.
Yeah. Well, so Abby in the chat says Kartoffelpuffer. That's my butchered pronunciation. Do you know what that is?
Well,
Maybe
I know what kartoffel is, but I
us.
don't know what she means with kartoffelpuffer.
Oh, she says very good. Well, thank Duolingo. So, audience, I am doing Duolingo to learn Dutch in prep of a couple trips over there. And
Is it my potato thing? Hold on.
oh, that's your potato thing. Okay, cool. Well, for me, it's
Yes, sort of. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's what we call it in German. Oh, Germans. God, I can't bother myself with a whole other language.
Listen.
Not yet.
German. So you got butterfly, right? Butterfly sounds good. In Dutch, we call it een vlinder. And then you got the German word schmetterling.
Half of the German language sounds angry to me. And my sister speaks very, very good German. She went to school over there for a little bit, and even nice words sound angry. But you know, I've noticed when I've been doing Duolingo for Dutch, there's a lot of words that I can recognize. Like Guten Tag looks a lot like Guten Dag, and I mean, obviously that makes sense. It's not far away, but yeah, it's interesting. You can reason some things out with contextual clues on the app.
Yeah. Same works. Like if you can read Dutch, you'll probably be able to filter out a whole lot in African, South African. But we're drifting off. Let's wrap it. Let's call it a day.
Okay. All right. Well,
I want to keep those 5-star reviews coming and not like they're just now talking me to sleep.
Sounds good.
Enjoy your holidays, buddy.
You too. Have a good one.
That is all for today. Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, let us know by hitting that like button. Share it with friends and colleagues, sharing a message on LinkedIn, joining our warm and welcoming Discord community, or attend recordings as a virtual audience. You can find all the relevant links in the show notes. We hope you'll tune back in for the next episode of the Mastering Agility podcast.